In this review of the week's news, profits are up at Orion. The City Council's taking a brothel owner to court, and it was Māori Language Week. This is CTV News Week in Review. I'm Grant Mangan. Orion recorded a $50 million profit this year, and to reward a job well done, Orion's chief executive is receiving a large pay rise.
A Christchurch City Councillor has weighed in on the hefty pay rise of Orion's chief executive.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit much. I think councillors have definitely been feeding back to CCHL and our subsidiary companies that there needs to be some restraint in CEO salaries, especially in companies which are essentially operating as public monopolies where there isn't huge competition.
In the March 2014 financial year, Orion's chief executive, Rob Jamieson, was paid between $720,000 and $730,000, a much higher salary than the $540,000 to $550,000 he was paid in the previous year.
I think, once you get above 500,000, it's a bit hard to justify.
The pay rise takes Mr Jamieson above what Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority's chief executive, Roger Sutton, was paid when he was in the same role. But Orion have defended the pay rise in a statement, saying that when Mr Jamieson was taken on, Orion agreed to pay him an incentive payment if his performance was satisfactory over the 3 years.
And I don't think we should be looking at private sector pay levels and using those to determine, public sector level.
The Christchurch City Council owns 90% of Orion, with the Selwyn District Council owning the rest.
And one thing we've got to remember from the council perspective is these are standalone companies. They operate with independent boards and, under the Companies Act, and there are limits to what we can do, but it is something that we will have a closer look at.
The pay rise comes at a time when the company recorded a $50 million profit, up $1 million on what it earned last year. Emma Cropper, CTV News.
After nearly a year of complaints, the Christchurch City Council is finally taking the owner of an illegal brothel to court. This is the first court case of its kind in Christchurch.
Amidst a row of quiet homes in England streets sits an illegal brothel. On Tuesday, the Christchurch City Council is taking its owner to court because the brothel is operating outside of the permitted areas. It's a victory for Wayne Hawker, a strong opponent to the brothel within his street.
I believe it is the first time this has been taken to court, and I'm absolutely rapt that I've been able to lead the charge for this community.
You might be happy that the City Council is trying to shut the brothel down, but its owners sure aren't. An abatement notice was first lodged in September last year, and it's taken this long for the case to get to court.
While at times it has been frustrating, there's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy that you have to go through to make sure that, the outcome follows all due process.
Despite the looming court date, the brothel was very busy when CTV was filming. In the space of half an hour, 2 customers came and then went, scared off by the presence of our cameras in the street. One woman arrived at the address while we were filming. I approached and introduced myself, but she denied it was in fact a brothel.
What do you mean it's not what I think it is?
You talk about being a brothel, it's not a brothel, so...
What is it?
It's actually someone that lives here, people who live here.
So it's not a brothel at all?
Wayne has also alleged that some of the girls working at the brothel have been illegal immigrants.
The reality is, if they're visitors to Christchurch or to New Zealand, they cannot be working in a brothel because they will not have a visa, a work visa that allows them to do this type of work.
Immigration New Zealand has confirmed today that 2 people working at the England Street premises were found to be unlawfully in New Zealand and have since been deported. Wayne says the brothel needs to go.
As we know, brothels do attract undesirables, and families were worried about their children.
Last year, Wayne's crusade made headlines when he started publishing the registration details of clients visiting the brothel on Facebook. He says they were coming at all hours of the day and night. He vowed then that he would put this illegal brothel out of business.
And if I can take the lead and show other people out there in the community, if you have a voice, it will be heard. You just got to be persistent, and I'm more than willing to help other communities in their fights as well.
Wayne's promising to be seated at the front of the public gallery when this case is heard in the Christchurch District Court next Tuesday. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
The University of Canterbury is asking the Christchurch City Council to exclude the university from the local alcohol policy ban.
No drinking alcohol in public places. A submission heard at the council hearings panel meeting today saw Canterbury University and their student association strongly oppose the amendment, including the university in the proposed alcohol bylaw. Canterbury University's Pro-Chancellor Sue McCormick says the university support the local alcohol policy but don't want it to include the university. The Pro-Chancellor says the university already has policies put in place.
The university has its own alcohol policies, and we believe it's too intrusive. We're an open community and we want public to be able to go in there and to enjoy our grounds, and we don't want to be fenced off, and we believe that we are absolutely capable of controlling our own students within our own grounds.
Over 1,000 students live on campus in the various hostels in the Island area. Sue McCormick says any alcohol-related disturbances are monitored by the on-campus security.
We have security team that are 24/7 on our grounds, and we believe that we can control ourselves and don't really need another entity to keep control of our own students.
Christchurch City Councillor David East says after the earthquakes, many suburbs in Christchurch grew significantly. Upper Riccarton, being one of these areas, is now being re-looked at for the proposed alcohol policy.
The general shift of population has been to the west, and we now have a lot of our previous inner city hospitality is now focused on the Riccarton area, so we need to overcome some of the problems there. So we've
Overall, 13 submitters agreed with the proposed area for the alcohol ban. David East says the university is a big part of the Riccarton and Island area. Looking at how to reduce the alcohol-related disturbances is a part of the policy-making process.
The problem for the university is more in legislation, where the Local Government Alcohol Amendment Act of a couple of years ago has redefined public places. So we're not actually debating that issue today, but there could be some issue going forward with that definition of public places.
The University of Canterbury Student Association President Sarah Platt says the UCSA strongly opposed police regulating alcohol consumption on private property with public access.
We're asking the council to relook at the proposed submission around the liquor ban and the private property with public access clause that's in the submission. We don't think that that's something that should be kept in there.
The university security work well with the police with complaints and incidents in the university area. For the public streets such as Island or Clyde roads, not on campus, if an incident occurs, security assesses the situation and hands it over to the local police. In the last few years, Sarah Platt says the number of complaints received has decreased. The UCSA says in 2012 they had 17 complaints, and in 2013, 13. Sarah Platt says for the university, in 2012 the number was 67 and in 2013 only 27.
For us, that's something that's really positive to see, that our students are becoming active, engaging members of the community and remembering to be good neighbours. I think that that's something we really try and get across to our students, to remember to be good neighbours and let your neighbours know if you're having a party, and make sure you clean up afterwards. And hopefully that is something that seems to be coming across, so that's really positive.
The University of Canterbury is still dealing with the drop in enrolments following the Canterbury earthquakes. Wanting campus to be an attractive and vibrant place, the university believe the proposed alcohol bylaw may put them at a disadvantage. UCSA President Sarah Platt says they want students and young people to re-engage with the community. Hoping to take away the misconception that students are all bad, she believes the figures point out student behaviour is getting better.
I think that's a positive change, and I think it will help for other members of the community to see that it's not about us and them. It's, a lot of students do want to become engaged members of society, and I think that for our students to do that is something that's really great for us to see, so it's a positive step.
The current permanent alcohol ban on the Riccarton Island area has been in place since March of this year and expires on the 31st of August. Joelle Batista, CTV News.
Coming up, learner drivers are being mentored in a new initiative. The New Zealand Transport Agency is funding a mentor program to help learner drivers, the first of its kind in the South Island. Emma Cropper was at the launch.
It's all about making roads safer, and for those sitting here, they're a new batch of drivers hoping to do just that. 18-year-old Cody Mitchell's been stuck on his learner licence for the past 2 years.
I've already done my restricted, but I failed it, so this will be a good opportunity to do it.
Cody has a long list of fines for breaching his licence conditions. In the past 2 months, he's been handed out over 4 fines. But this mentoring program will help him head in the right direction.
Pretty good to do it because I really need my restricted, because I'm pretty much always driving on my learners and I'm just over the top fines and it's no good. Just want to get out there and get a job.
The program is the first of its kind in the South Island, targeting the disadvantages learner drivers face when sitting their restricted licence. Student drivers will be mentored through the program over the next 12 weeks, attending 3 driving lessons with the AA, followed by extra lessons with their mentor.
I think they need to learn the basics right from the beginning and get no bad habits like perhaps I got into and now I've had to get out of again.
Lynn Himiona is a local resident who's put her hand up to mentor learner drivers, a program she believes is needed in today's society.
I've had my licence for many years and it was like one whip round the block and you got your licence, and there wasn't many cars on the road in those days, but now with the traffic and the speed of the cars, they really do need to have something.
Education has been a large focus of the New Zealand Transport Agency and the New Zealand Police. 2 years ago, the government made it harder to pass the test by introducing more complex driving scenarios. On average, just over half of those sitting the test pass, compared to an average of over 80% in recent years. Last year, Canterbury Police issued over 18,000 notices to drivers breaching the terms of their learners or restricted licences.
That's not going to work again this year, so we've got to jump in and do something about it. A program like this comes along, there's just so much value to it, so we totally buy into it.
The mentoring program is a partnership between the NZTA, Salvation Army, AA and New Zealand Police. Chevron is sponsoring $100,000 towards the program to help fund fuel costs for the project over the next 2 years.
I mean, the great thing about it is it involves the people from the community itself to pair up with students and make a real difference.
Canterbury Police are also doing their bit to educate learner drivers, launching an operation that will see teen drivers given a different kind of ticket. Drivers caught breaching the conditions of their licences will attend a seminar on road safety rather than the usual punishment of a $100 fine and the loss of 35 demerit points.
I mean, the big stick's not working. There's no point just keep doing that and keep fining people. They're just accruing fines and that's not doing anyone any good. So we're looking at other options.
Next week, these drivers will get behind the wheel as they become one step closer to being safer on Christchurch roads. Emma Cropper, CTV News.
It's Māori Language Week. CTV News headed to CPIT to see how people are getting involved with the celebrations.
Aroha tia te reo, cherish the language, the theme for Māori Language Week, a time for celebrating the Māori culture and heritage. Encouraging the local community to get involved, the Christchurch Polytechnic Institute of Technology are celebrating with Māori weaving, art, stories, music, food and competitions. CPIT's Māori Engagement Officer, Manu Fata, says the purpose of these activities is to increase the awareness and use of the Māori language and culture. One particular highlight is the tā moko, the Māori tattoo.
The main difference to me between moko and the average tattoo is the meanings that we incorporate into each piece, each individual moko. So they all hold their own individual meanings that's unique to the individual. So yeah, to me that's what the difference is. Yeah.
Henari Brookings is one of the 3 talented artists giving tā mokos to willing participants at CPIT today. 25-year-old Daniel Hoskins is getting his first tā moko done today. A memorable moment for the tradesman. He believes it represents his whakapapa, where he's at now and where he's come from.
Represents where I come from and where they're all from, and which is Whangarei, Ngāpuhi up north. And there's a manaia on there, it's my brother, so he's always on my back, watching over me because he passed away a few years ago. So yeah.
18-year-old James Armstrong is a CPIT student and also getting his first tau moko. For James, he's created his own design and says it's about mana, being proud of his culture.
Not more what it represents, it's more my own design, so it's just something that I designed myself, and yeah.
The tau moko is an art form Henare Brookings holds close to his heart. Engraving heritage into people's skin is a part of the Māori culture.
Like putting it into skin helps retain a lot of knowledge, history, and about Māori, about who we are. So yeah, it helps carry our culture.
Māori Language Week has been nationally celebrated every year since 1975. Pleased to see others getting actively involved in Māori culture, Henare Brookings says it's great to see, but for him, it's a celebration all day, every day.
The average New Zealander, might be able to understand the language a lot more, to help them understand our culture a lot more.
Holding the pride of the culture close to the hearts of the people, the tau moko is just one way CPIT is celebrating this important week. Aroha tia te reo, cherish the language. Joel Batista, CTV News.
Still to come, the bells have returned to Christchurch Cathedral. Development of new multi-million-dollar facilities is underway for the Sisters of Nazareth. Emma Cropper was on site to check out how it's coming along.
It's a $70 million development that will see the Sisters of Nazareth back up and running.
Very exciting, really. It's been a very hard 3 years, and I think that this is it's given them a sense of hope, and of course our mission will restart again in Christchurch, which is very important to us.
The development will be built on the 8-hectare property in Sydenham. It'll include an 80-bed aged care hospital and rest home, as well as a dementia unit, convent and chapel.
I think it's enormously exciting for the sisters because this is their ministry in New Zealand. And I think for the people of Christchurch, I mean, we've all seen a community that's been battered by the earthquakes, and to see this sort of development re-emerge is exciting not only for the sisters, but I think for the Christchurch community as well.
The Sisters of Nazareth have been in Christchurch for more than 100 years. The Nazareth home name dates from the Order's early 1900s orphanage and later rest home that was built in the 1980s. But following the earthquake, they lost their convent, chapel and Nazareth House rest home.
It was an enormous loss. I think we were very fortunate in that none of the residents was hurt or seriously injured, so of course that's the most important thing.
Residents who called Nazareth House home at the time had to be evacuated within hours after the quake struck.
For all residents to have to be evacuated within 24 hours was traumatic for them and for their families. It's certainly been traumatic for the sisters and their loss of their ministry in Christchurch. But to be at a point now 3.5 years later where that purpose is back again and a sense of life, it's really exciting.
Until their new facilities are built, the sisters are using this porticom as their temporary chapel. But over the past 3 years, have never thought about leaving the site.
The congregation was really clear that the sisters wanted to stay in Christchurch, so they've continued their ministry by visiting others in the community.
The earthquake tore down most of their facilities, but not everything was lost. Before their buildings were demolished, valuable possessions were salvaged.
We've saved the stained glass windows, and we've saved also the marble altar, also Stations of the Cross, which are a work of art, but they also have not just historical value, but they also have a sentimental value, I think, to the sisters as well.
The facilities are expected to be completed by 2016, with the sisters being joined by more than 150 staff. Emma Cropper, CTV News.
The free flu injection period has been extended until the end of August for Cantabrians who qualify.
Over 75% of over 65-year-olds get vaccinated with the flu injection every year. Nationally, the flu injection is free for pregnant women, people over the age of 65 and those who suffer from chronic illnesses. The Canterbury District Health Board has announced flu injections will be free for those under the age of 18 in Canterbury. Wanting to see more people immunised, the free injections were due to end this month, but have now been extended until the end of August. Dr Raymond Pink, the Canterbury Medical Officer of Health, says the peak time for the flu outbreak in New Zealand is during August and September. Concerned the community might be vulnerable to a late surge of infections, Dr Raymond Pink says the flu injection containing part of the disease is a myth.
People often think that you get the flu by getting the flu injection. That's not true. We don't put any live virus into the vaccine, and it provides protection for the virus that is currently circulating in the community.
The Canterbury Medical Officer says even if you pay the $30 required, it's a great investment in not only your own health but those around you. Making it free and available for every young Cantabrian under the age of 18 is important. The infection is commonly spread at schools and public places.
School is a place where the spread of illness happens more easily than perhaps in our other parts of our communities. So we've been targeting schools for the last 3 years now, and the uptake for the vaccine has improved considerably throughout those years.
Dr Pink says Canterbury has been lucky so far, but can't afford to get complacent. There's still time to get protected.
Take advantage of it. Go and get vaccinated. Get your children vaccinated. If people are unwell, if you become unwell, don't send your kiddies to school. Don't go to work yourself. No one's going to thank you if you've got the flu, or even if you've got a severe cold.
The flu vaccine will continue in Canterbury until the 31st of August. Joelle Batista, CTV News.
The bells of Christchurch Cathedral have returned home.
The sound of the cathedral bells haven't been heard in 3 years. The Anglican bell ringers are excited to welcome the 13 bells home. The original 12 bells were damaged in the February earthquake and sent off to England to be repaired. Sir Kristen Grant-Bennett is a former bell ringer and looks after the sacraments of the Christchurch Anglican Church.
The bells are obviously they're part of the old cathedral, and they've been just cleaned up, and one of them has been recast, and they've had a new one made. So I think that it's they're sort of a wee symbol of hope there that things will return.
The bells were sent back to John Taylor's Bell Foundry in England, the place they were made in 1978. A symbol of hope important for the people of Canterbury, Grant-Bennett says he looks forward to hearing them ring again soon.
It's very exciting actually to have them back. It's just sort of returning back to normal a little bit, having them back in Christchurch and seeing them all, getting them out of it, and we're hoping to ring them as soon as we can. Yes.
The 13 bells won't be chiming anytime soon. The only place able to ring church bells is in St Paul's and Papanui. Wanting a temporary home for the iconic bells closer to the transitional cathedral, Sir Kristen Grant-Bennett says no plans have been made yet. Joelle Batista, CTV News.
That's CTV News Week in Review. I'm Grant Mangan. Have a great weekend.